Hello everyone, welcome to the Two Whalleys. I'm Simon Whalley and the other Whalley is my dad, John. My dad's 85, I'm 45. My dad's living in Swansea in Wales. I'm living in Osaki Kamijima, an island in the Seto Sea in Japan. My dad reads the Daily Mirror, I read the Guardian. My dad's a massive meat eater, I'm a vegan. There's a lot of stuff we disagree on. There's a lot of stuff we agree on. Once a week, we get together on Zoom and we basically talk about all the world's problems and we have a good moan to each other. And sometimes it's quite funny. So we thought, why don't we record this and see if anyone else thinks it's funny too. Worst case scenario is we've got some nice memories that myself and my son can enjoy. So thanks for coming here. I hope you enjoy it and please let us know what you think in the comments and share on social media. Thanks very much. Enjoy the episode. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, people are starving now, and this is England in the 21st century. Almost 11,000 people were admitted to hospital with malnutrition last year. So look at the facts. Look at the facts. In the 12 months to April, 10,800 NHS patients suffering from malnutrition.
Yeah.
Including 312 children.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Madness that.
Now, yeah, well, supposed to have disappeared in the 1960s. That's rickets and scurvy. All right. Now they're supposed to have disappeared in the 1960s. There was 171 cases. Yeah, there was 171 cases of scurvy between 2020 2021 and 482 cases of rickets. These cases are not acts of God. It's poverty, homelessness, and deprivation.
Right, definitely, Dad. Definitely, yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. I can't believe scurvy was around until the 1960s, though. I know that's not the important thing.
Yeah,
you probably remember. You probably remember scurvy.
It was the sailors who used to get it, didn't it? Because of the not eating anything like that, isn't it?
Well, lack of vitamin C, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, you never think the scurvy and rickets were back again now, would you?
No, I mean it's I think a lot of kids nowadays as well. Probably they're eating the wrong diets as well, aren't they? They don't eat a lot of fruits today, and
well, I think they're trying to do. Yeah, they're trying to do that now in schools. They're trying to give them proper meals now, aren't they?
Yeah, but I agree with you, Dad. So I had a little dig around to, during the pandemic, UK taxpayers essentially created 24 billionaires. So between 2020 2023, 24 new UK billionaires were created, Dad. So that the total now is 171 billionaires in the UK.
I know.
So,
but that's where we should be getting the money off, not the poor people, isn't it?
Oh, without doubt, Dad. Yeah, the richest 1,000 families now have more wealth than the poorest 40% of British households. That's households,
Yeah.
In a single year, their wealth grew by £77 million a day.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's like this now, right? How to be a failure. Now, if failures want to make money, it's failures can earn £5 million a year. That's failure.
Oh yeah.
That's don't you? That's Boris Johnson. Now, how to make millions by being a failure? Mr. Johnson, by quitting Parliament, no longer to record he hasn't got to declare his finances now. So since standing down as MP in June, he has earned more than £5 million. Now, £5 million for a failure, one of the worst prime ministers we've ever had, right? And not only that, his successor, Liz Truss, has lasted only 49 days as Prime Minister, earned 15,000 an hour, the highest hourly rate of any sitting MP. You know, this country it's just going bonkers, isn't it? No, I think MPs should do a job that is looking after the people who elected them, not doing two jobs, because most of them have got two jobs, haven't they? I mean, when you go into Parliament, you should be looking after your constituents.
Yeah, well, exactly. You shouldn't have time to do a second job, Dad, should you?
No, no.
You know?
I mean, I'd rather pay them more. I'd rather pay them more, but to look after and do. I mean, they're not doing anything now. They're not doing anything about the migrants, anything like that. They just promises. They don't do anything. But they should only, when people go in as an MP, they should only go in there to do one job, and that's where the constituents. Not making millions on the sidelines and that, like, you know what I mean? Oh, because all they're worried about is making money. They don't care less about the constituents. Some do, but most of them
some
don't.
do.
You know?
Some do, Dad. Yeah, that's the thing. You don't want to tar them all with that brush, do you? Because some do.
No.
But there's I think Keir Starmer at the moment is backing a crackdown on second jobs, with exception for people writing political books and MPs with professional jobs like doctors who need to update their skills regularly, top up their skills, Dad. So I think that would be a good legislation to pass. Yeah? What do you think?
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But now I don't know. The MPs, most of these MPs now, they just all they're worried about is making money. They don't care about the people. As long as we make a millionaire,
Yeah, as I said last week, Dad, if you made it so that if you made it, you could only have one job, you might then get the right people involved in politics.
Correct.
Care about doing what progressive stuff for their constituents, looking after them. But I mean, I had a look around, Dad, and I found this website that was called the Tortoise Media, and they've got 67 pages on there, Dad. I only went through 2 pages. I didn't have enough time. And it lists all of the different politicians and where they get their money from, right? So I'm going to put this up on the screen so everyone can see. And like some of the stuff they're doing, Dad, is like, right, they might get like 100 grand or something from a university, and it's clearly they're giving a talk, right? Now, again, should they be doing that when they're prime minister? Not really, I don't think so. But
no, and that comes out of the taxpayers again, doesn't it?
Well, the universities are mostly private now, Dad, aren't they? So no, it'll be coming out. It's money that should be going to professors, but instead is going to Boris Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. Liz making a speech in Taiwan. She got £80,000 for that. Well, who would want her to make a speech when she nearly crippled the country?
Yeah, well, I found who's paying for that. That is a company. It's a think tank called Prospect Foundation. They give her 80 grand. This think tank basically pays Western politicians to visit Taiwan. Nancy Pelosi was another one, who was the Speaker of the House in America, the House of Representatives, and they pay them to go to Taiwan and make anti-China kind of, or to espouse anti-China kind of views,
Yeah, but that China won't like that, will they? Because they don't want us to go over there, do they? And speak in Taiwan.
No. As I said, that's the only thing that they don't want, is people to recognize that Taiwan is an individual sovereign country. So
and to me, it's provoking China, isn't it? They're doing that,
Absolutely, Dad. Absolutely, yeah. It's a stupid thing to do, but I don't know what they're thinking. But let me just read off a few, right, Dad? Centerview gave Boris Johnson a load of money. That's an investment banking firm with $3 trillion of transactions. Their customers are basically 20% of the 50 largest companies in the world. So straight away, Dad, you can imagine why they want to give Boris Johnson money, right? Now, their clients now are going to be able to have access to the Prime Minister, right? So this is what they're paying for, Dad, in a lot of ways, is access to power, right? And then, obviously, if there's any kind of legislation that's coming through, they would expect Boris Johnson not to vote for it, right?
Yeah, but Boris Johnson is not in Parliament now. I mean, he's got no power, has he, over people?
Well, no, but it's not that he hasn't got power. This was when he was in. This was when he was in office. This is since
Oh yeah,
2019, in the last
yeah.
4 years. But what he does have, Dad, is access to all the politicians, right? He's got access to all the right members clubs where he can rock up with these people. He can introduce them to all the right people who are sitting on the right committees, who are passing legislation on everything, Dad. He's a very, very well connected. He's in Etonian, Dad, right? All the people that are running our country are old Etonians, or not all of them, obviously. It's a boys' club, Dad, isn't it?
I think he's getting $500,000 for his biography as well. Like, it's
he did. He got $500,000 for that.
I mean, to be failures and earn millions a year, it's sending out the wrong message to people, isn't it? Especially to the poorer people.
It is, Dad, and like Theresa May is at 2.7 million, Dad, right? Now the money she's had coming in, she got 160 grand from JP Morgan, which is an American bank, right? She had Deutsche Bank, £74,000, PricewaterhouseCoopers, which is an accountancy firm, Amundi Asset Management Company with $2 trillion of assets. These are all foreign, apart from PricewaterhouseCoopers. They're all foreign companies, Dad. The question should be: should our politicians be taking money from foreign companies, Dad? Because clearly, then what they're being paid to provide some sort of benefit for foreign corporations, Dad, right?
Yeah.
Surely, if they're going to be doing anything, they should be working for the benefit of British companies, right?
Yeah, well, it's like the water board. They owe 14 billion pound, right? 14 billion pound, and it's owned by most of it is owned by foreign companies. So they couldn't care less about our seas are being blocked and all our rivers, the fish are dying in the rivers. They couldn't care less, could they? It's not their country.
No, and to be honest, less and less, Dad. It's the billionaires in our country. It's not their country either. You take the richest people in our country, Dad, James Dyson, who invented the Dyson cleaner. He went and shipped his company off to Singapore because it's got cheaper tax, right? Then you got Jim Ratcliffe, who's trying to buy Manchester United. He owns Ineos. He's domiciled in Europe. He was pro-Brexit, Dad, but he's living in Europe because of cheaper taxes.
That's right.
These people, they've got more in common with billionaires in France and billionaires in Singapore than they have the working class in their own countries, Dad, right? So that's again another problem, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh no,
the people making the laws are, they're all in cahoots with the billionaires, and the billionaires are living overseas. The politicians are invested in foreign companies, getting paid by foreign companies.
Well, it's basically it's like all this money spent now on going to the moon and going to all different planets. They want to put that money into our planet and save our planet.
I agree that, but the planet's going to be all right. It's all the species living here, including us, that are not going to be okay. But yeah, I totally agree that we should not be wasting money on going to Mars. But that's a nice little plan B for the billionaires, isn't it? Because they're the only ones who are going to be able to afford it. A ticket.
Yeah.
So you can see why they're doing it. But yeah, I mean, I hopefully I'll have been playing that. The money that they're getting is ridiculous. All these politicians, and where they're getting it from is massively problematic for our country and the taxpayers.
Yeah. Oh, it's just greed now, isn't it? It seems that all over the world, it's just all these head ones. They just want the money. They make us money. They couldn't care less about the people, could they?
No, definitely not. No. Again, we can't tar everyone with that brush, Dad. Some of the politicians are actually doing a good job out there, So, in very difficult circumstances, I'd add, because when most politicians are on the take, it's got to be quite difficult to say no to that, doesn't it?
Yeah. And I notice now as well is all this about closing the offices in the stations.
Yeah.
Which to me is a stupid idea, sort of thing, especially for the older people, sort of thing. Like,
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And it's not fair on passengers will struggle to get the cheapest rail fares when ticket office closed. Well, I'll give you examples now. I saw this in the paper, examples. Blackburn to Leicester with senior rail card. In the machine, it's £87. But in the office, it's only £42. Right? Now, you know, Birmingham, New Street to Bristol, Temple Meads. Machine, £68. Office, £42. There's all different examples here. Well, they're closing the offices, so they're saving money and they're ripping off the customers as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can't make that up, Dad. Because honestly, like, you know, it's cutting 2,000 jobs. Obviously, the reasoning behind that is to, you know, to cut their overheads so they can provide higher returns of investment to their shareholders, to their investors. And then obviously, you know, what they should be doing is passing on those cost cuts to the customers, but then they're doubling the fares. So they're cutting their own costs and then doubling the fares.
Because you'll have to do it by machine.
Yeah.
And a lot of older people, they don't know how to use these machines and that, like, you know.
No. I mean,
they like to go into the tickets office and ask the people in there which is the best way and which is the cheapest way. Well, the machine doesn't tell you that, does it?
Well, I mean, honestly, that it's already like some of the most expensive travel I've seen in the world for trains. Like Japan, you jump on a train here. If you go in local, Dad, you know, an hour, 2 hours, or whatever, 3 hours even. If you don't use the bullet train, you can go somewhere, you know, quite a long way for 10, 15, 20 quid, you know. In Britain, already, it's ridiculous. If you book online, it's expensive, you know. And that's the same as booking through machines. So I agree. Well, I mean, how are old people gonna use the trains, Dad? Right?
Yeah.
If they can't
I mean, that's not far, is it? Yeah. Blackburn to Leicester is not. It's not all that far, is it? £87. That is.
Yeah. No. I mean, that's basically it. Costs about that to go from Hiroshima to Tokyo, which is like about a 12, 13-hour drive, Dad.
That's right.
You know? and that's on a bullet train. The bullet trains are fantastic. It's like you're on you know, it's like you're on a plane.
I know. I've been on them when I've come over to Japan, haven't I?
Right. It's like a really nice experience, you know. But going on a train in Britain is not quite the same, you know. So
no.
How they charge those kind of prices? I don't know, Dad. Yeah, ridiculous. So I got a question for you here, Dad. I hear that there's going to be lots of protests about this, right? About the 2,000 jobs and about the closing of the ticket offices. Would you support people blockading train stations to get this decision reversed?
That's a difficult one because I keep on saying on a protest you've got to go to the Parliament and protest against Parliament, not stopping people going to hospitals and going to work and things like that. I mean, I know you get people notice it when you do that, but they detest you by doing that when they've missed the trains, you know, when they miss the jobs and that, you know.
I know, it's a bit small-minded, that, isn't it, really? When you think of what the giant consequences are. I'm not talking about the trains here. Obviously, it's small fry compared to what we're talking about. Did you see... When you see, Dad, when you see like a town that's been flooded by these massively excess rainfall being caused by anthropogenic climate change, Dad, you can see that the whole town has been shut down, Dad, right?
Yeah.
You know, where are all the people calling out, you know, where are all the people calling out saying, you know, we can't get through the town here? Yeah. You know, because when the people who are in the streets trying to stop all these floods, trying to stop the people from dying, and they complain about them, but then when they get flooded, surely they should be calling out the government for not doing anything about it, right? Oh, look what you've done. The streets are flooded. I can't get to bloody work. That's your fault. But they don't, Dad, right? You know what I mean? The hypocrisy is mind-boggling.
I know. I think it's a shocking situation when we have to demonstrate like that to be heard.
Of course, yeah. You're supposed to have democracy, Dad, but we don't have democracy. As we've been talking about the last 5 weeks, we've got plutocracy, Dad. The more money you have, the more power you have. It's not like one vote, everyone's got an equal vote, which is what democracy should be. The more money you have, the more power and influence you've got. That's plutocracy, and we don't have democracy. So people should be protesting about that, Dad, because clearly we're being lied to, aren't we? You know?
Oh yeah, I mean, because I think the Conservative government it's run by rich people, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and not just that, it's run by rich people who believe that the rich should be rich because they work hard, and poor should be poor because they don't work hard. You know?
Yeah. I mean, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
the
if you've got coal miners,
look at nurses,
coal
12-hour
miners,
shifts and nurses and that, like, and things like that, like, and
coal
they
miners
work.
haven't got time for a second job, Dad, do they?
No.
They
Oh
get home
no.
and they're absolutely knackered.
Well, no, it's like the House of Lords. They go in there, they sign on, get £300 and go home. I wouldn't mind a job like
I mean,
that.
I know a few people like that. One of our viewers used to be doing that when he was in Swansea, Dad, didn't he?
Yeah.
Go into work, change a few sockets, and back in bed before while his bed's still warm. Classic. Yeah, I mean, and this is again related to what we've just been talking about with the climate, Dad. But so the UK illegal migration bill now is just being passed by the House of Lords. It's been ping-ponging back between the House of Commons and the House of Lords, and now it's going to go to King Charles, and if he gives it the go-ahead, then it's going to be illegal for people to cross the channel or to come into Britain without the correct visa and passport, Dad.
Well, no, I tend to agree. Something's got to be done, Simon, hasn't there?
Well, I mean, it's called the illegal migration bill, Dad, and there's a reason it's called the illegal migration bill, and that's because it's fucking illegal. So let me, government says refugees crossing in boats are illegal. They must come through ports with official visas and passports. Now, most people
that's quite right. I agree with that.
Right, okay. So what I'm saying is that's illegal though, Dad. Yeah, you can agree with it, but it's still illegal. So most people who come through, who flee from wars, Dad, who are like in Sudan now, Syria, Ukraine, most of them don't have access to formal documents like passports and visas. If you're in the Ukraine and your country gets invaded, it might be difficult to get a new passport, Dad. You know what I mean? So, and if you're in Sudan and you've never been abroad, you wouldn't have a passport, you wouldn't have visas. It might be quite difficult. So in 1951, Dad, after the two world wars, the 1951 Convention on Refugees states that refugees have the right have the right not to be punished for irregular entry. Irregular entry is like coming across the channel, right? They have the right to decent work. They have the right to housing. They have the right to education. They have the right to freedom of movement within that territory. And they have the right to social protections. So clearly, what the UK government is doing is illegal. And the United Nations is saying as much that.
Okay, then they've got to build more houses for a start. They can't even give houses to our people, the British people. So how can you give houses to refugees when you can't even house your own people?
Well, Aaron, I'll answer in two things here, Dad. One, we've talked about in the last few weeks is, during COVID, there was not a single homeless person in the country, Dad. We put them all in hotels, right? Paid for all of that. So clearly, we are capable of providing homes. We also spoke on here. There are 1 million homes empty now.
No. It's costing £6 million a day now to put refugees in hotels.
Yeah. I know. I mean.
Well, you can't keep on spending that kind of money. £6 million a day.
Well, I mean, how much do you think we're spending on the Ukraine war, Dad? I guarantee you, it's more than £6 million a day.
I know, but you can't keep on spending. Look, it's going to get worse, the refugees. Look, as people get more hungry, when the crops fall because of the climate change,
Yeah.
there's going to be more refugees going to all the different countries, isn't there?
Oh, yeah, totally, Dad, yeah.
So, I mean, this guy, I don't know what the answer is, but there's got to be it's up to the government to make these. They're the ones we elect. They should find the answers, shouldn't they?
Well, I half agree with you, Dad, and I half don't agree with you, because what we've just been talking about is that our politicians are completely corrupt. They don't have a sensible bone in their bodies. They don't care about people. So is it realistic to think that they care about refugees?
Well, no, look, ours the refugees, but ours our own people first. I mean, you can't. These youngsters now can't get. They can't get on the housing ladder. They can't get on it. It's too expensive, you know.
Yeah. Well,
I mean,
you won't find.
You've got to. They've got to build cheaper housing so the young people can get on the housing ladder and then go and get a bigger house afterwards. And you've got to be. They don't like building cheaper houses because there's no money in it for them.
Yeah, look, you won't find a complaint with me on that, Dad. I agree 100%. The problem I had with it is it's not a zero-sum game, Dad, that if you build houses for refugees, then British people lose out. You can do both, right? You can do both. And as you're saying, building cheap houses, one thing I disagree with you on, Dad, and this is something you probably liked about Margaret Thatcher, was the right to buy scheme that she brought in. When you didn't have the right to buy scheme, renting houses was cheap, Dad, right? You had all these council houses. They weren't great standard, Dad, but you had these council houses that people could afford to live in, right? You didn't have to own your own house, Dad. Why are we so addicted now to owning? Got to own a house, you know?
Well, after the Second World War, the problem was they got rid. Oh, they got rid of the problem. They made cheap prefabricated houses. They were supposed to last 20 years. They didn't. They lasted 60 years.
Yeah. I mean, you've seen what they're going to be doing with these with the refugees now, right? They're keeping them on prison barges, Dad.
Oh yeah, no, I know.
The one thing I have just said: the right refugees under the 1951 convention that all these countries in the world signed on to, Dad, they must have the right of freedom to movement within the territory. How can you have the right of movement if you're on a fucking prison barge? You know, how can you find a job, Dad, if you're on a prison barge? You might be able to go.
Like I say, they've got to build cheaper houses so our people can get on the housing ladder, and then we can, with the cheaper houses, we can give the refugees as well. But they don't want to build cheaper houses because there's no money in it for them. They would like to build the big houses. There's more money in it. You know?
Yeah. I mean, like, you don't remember this, Dad. You hadn't quite been born then. But like in the Victorian ages, we used to keep prisoners on prison barges, right? We had these floating prisons, right? And then we would send them off to Australia, right? Before we sent them to Botany Bay in Australia, the original idea was to send them to the west coast of Africa in, let me have a look, in a place called Das Voltas Bay in Namibia, Dad. We were going to send people that we didn't want, undesirables, to Africa. Do you notice the similarities here, Dad? We don't. We're going to send. Yeah, because we're going to send.
They want to send it. They want to send them to Rwanda now, don't they?
Yeah, it's like, what the fuck is going on? Look, deal with your own fucking problems. Do you know what I mean? Don't ship them off to other fucking places. It's the same. It's the same Tory scum who are doing this, Dad. Do you know what I mean? You know.
Well, I mean, we vote them in to solve all these problems, not for other people to solve, and they should be solving the problems, and they've no idea how to do it, have they?
No, it's just like shipping, just kicking the can down the road. It's the same with climate change, Dad. They're just like, fuck it, we're only going to be in power for 4 years, 8 years. We're not doing anything about it. We're just going to fleece as much money out of the taxpayers as we can.
Well, I pity the Labour government when they get in, because they're going to be so much money. They're going to be in such a mess.
Yeah.
And people it's going to take years and years to get us out of this mess. But people then will blame the Labour Party for not, for doing a bad job.
Yeah. And like, I think a lot of me thinks that that's intentional. The Tories know they're on their way out. So it's just like, how much damage can we do? How bad can we make things? And then Labour has to clear up, right?
Yeah, and a year later, all the people saying, "Oh, they're doing an awful job. The Labour, awful job."
Yeah.
Let's get the Conservatives back in.
Yeah. Oh no, it will be, Dad. It will be totally. I agree.
Because we're going to be such a mess when the Labour get in. It's going to be hard for them to. It's going to be years and years before they get us out of the mess, isn't it?
Oh, ridiculous, Dad. And it's all the stories we've talked about tonight, Dad. They're important. Like Boris Johnson nicking all that money, and the trains and stuff. But really, all of this is just distractive to people, right? The main story that we should all be focusing on, Dad, that is the big one, is the fact
climate change.
Well, yeah. I mean, there was a report out this week, Dad, right? That the chances of having simultaneous food crop losses at the same time, right? Multiple bread basket failure. Our previous estimates have been wholly, under what we thought they were going to be, because we weren't taking into account the jet stream, which is affecting all the northern hemisphere weather at the moment, Dad. It's what's causing the heat dome in America and the massive flooding. And so, basically, if you look at, according to Google, Dad, right, this year, there have been 10,000 stories written about Philip Schofield and his young lover, and only 5 about this scientific paper that claims the chances of simultaneous crop failure have been grossly underestimated. So this is distractive from the media, right? They don't want us to be focusing on the real stories. They want to drip us all these little silly stories at the end of the day, Dad. Like at the moment,
people. Yeah, it seems that people don't seem to want to know about that. Like you've got this now. I saw that in the paper, in the news. People going to Death Valley in America on a trip to be there when it's the hottest day of the year. Yeah. I mean, they're asking for it's like a death wish, isn't it?
Well, I mean, people are like that though, Dad, and they want to go and see. They want to go and see the ice melting in Antarctica and stuff. And I mean, I don't know, but it's you've got to ask why are the media outlets, Dad, encouraging us to focus on Schofield rather than an existential threat of mass starvation in the coming decades,
Because that seems to what people want to read about, isn't it?
Well, I don't know though, Dad. I don't know whether it is. I just think that, I mean, there might be a point in that, Dad. Maybe a lot of people do want to ignore it because they think it's a bit depressing. They think it's a bit unhappy, and they just want to be, ignore it. But that's obviously, I don't know whether, I think in more ways than one though, Dad, it's like, does the tail wag the dog, or does the dog wag the tail? I think it's the media are owned by billionaires, Dad, and they know that if we are going to tackle climate change properly, it's going to mean an end to this neoliberal trickle-down economics where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's going to need to be ended because, the more money that the rich get, the more power they accrue, Dad, and the more power they accrue, the less power individuals have, or the working class have.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can see in years to come there's going to be demonstrations and riots all over the world, isn't there?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, Dad, it's
because
crazy.
Of the climate change, people can't get food. All the countries are not the crops are not getting any crops and that and there'll be more refugees then because they'll all be coming to the countries where they've got food.
Well, yeah, I mean, honestly, though, Dad, don't count your chickens thinking that Britain's going to be one of those countries with food, because at the moment, Dad, Britain grows less, or Britain produces less than 40% of its food. So 60% of Britain's food comes from outside the UK, Dad. So when other countries' crops fail, the UK is going to be in big trouble. So it's not like if people in the UK are thinking, oh, it's all right, we're rich, we'll be okay. Yeah, good luck with that one. Do you know what I mean? Plus, most of the crops are harvested by immigrants, right? Who are all on fucking prison boats.
I think that's one of the reasons why Putin wants to have Ukraine, because they're the biggest exporters of grain, aren't they?
Well, yeah, they are. But I mean, Russia is as well, Dad, aren't they? It's not like Russia's got they got a huge surplus of food, and they provide food for lots of countries around the world. But yeah, I mean, I just think I don't know what's in his mind, Dad. You know, but maybe, I don't know. I would have thought it's more than that, right? I think, he wants to probably destroy Ukraine so that Ukraine is never, NATO is not able to do anything in Ukraine, right? So we'll just destroy it.
I can't, honestly, I just can't understand that these countries like Putin wants to get Ukraine and China wants to get Taiwan. Why can't they just leave them alone and look after their own countries?
All right, Dad. Yeah. So, what we were talking about there, basically, I'm just going to quote this from this article now, Dad. I say corporations and oligarchs with massive fortunes can hire as many junk tanks, so-called think tanks, troll farms, marketing gurus, psychologists, targeters as they need to devise justifications and to demonize, demoralize, abuse, and threaten people trying to sustain a habitable planet. So basically, the people who are on the forefront trying to stop traffic, they might be annoying, but what they're trying to do is something really good, Dad. And they've got no money, Dad, to do this, right? And then on the other side, you've got all these evil corporations, Dad, all the media involved with it, trying to paint them as the bad guys, when in fact they're the good guys, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, and yeah, God. So this guy, George Monbiot, you've got his book, by the way. I gave you his book when you came to Japan. Captive State. Anyway, he says, looking back on previous human calamities, all of which will be dwarfed by this, you find yourself repeatedly asking, why didn't they? The answer is power. The power of a few to countermand the interests of humanity. The struggle to avert systemic failure is the struggle between democracy and plutocracy. It always has been, but the stakes are now higher than ever. Daddy's right, isn't he?
Yeah.
So I don't know what, to people like get angry about people in the streets. Try to understand why they're doing it, and then ask yourself, why aren't you? Do you know what I mean? If you care so much about, and you feel like, you're not in a place that you've got to get to work on time. If your job is that precarious, Dad, that you can't be stuck in traffic for half an hour without getting a sack, then you should be supporting this. Do you know what I mean?
I know it's awkward though, these demonstrations. I don't know. I know they've got to demonstrate for the government to take any notice at all.
Yeah.
Because if you don't demonstrate, they don't care, do they?
No, and like demonstrations are not enough either, Dad. It's got to be stuff that really interferes with money. That's the only thing that they care about, isn't it?
Well, look, like in France, when they demonstrate, don't they?
yeah, they don't fuck around. I mean, I'm not for burning cars and shit, Dad, really. I mean, especially not for the climate anyway. God, that's not going to help, is it? But, I mean, gluing yourself to roads to stop traffic, of course I'm against, I'm against blocking traffic so ambulances can't get through. Everyone is that. But when you think about what's coming, it just pales into comparison, Dad. It's just not that. Of course.
Just a minute, Simon. Simon. Just a minute. Hello. All right, Simon. Hello.
All right.
Someone was knocking on the door.
It's not Amazon, is it?
No. It was my prescription.
Ah, okay, yeah, good, good. You got that. Yeah, fucking hell, Dad. I mean, it's the yeah. I'm not for like burning shit and violence, but I don't see it as violence if you're blocking traffic, Dad. I think that's perfectly reasonable behavior in the face of what we're facing, right?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, there, Simon. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I don't.
I mean,
But I don't get him. I don't objectify to people doing it. I'm like, well done. You at least you're doing something. You're getting off your ass, and you're taking action.
it's like it's like all the nurses and that are going on strike and that. I mean, it's awful when they have to do that. When it's people's lives that are at stake. It's awful when they have to stop work and go on strike when they're needed. You know.
Well, yeah, especially just like, a year or so after they were heroes with people banging pots and pans and stuff. And then it's like, oh, and some of the people who are saying that, the heroes are probably now saying, oh, yeah, they shouldn't get a pay rise, So it's.
Oh, yeah, well, the government couldn't care less. They thought they were doing a fantastic job, but now they begrudge giving them a rise, don't they? No?
Yeah. I mean, Boris Johnson basically would be dead without the NHS, wouldn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
And he'd quite happily have privatised it if he could.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Dad. Well, anyway, that was a good little rant. I feel better now.
we've solved the world, haven't we?
Yeah, well, I don't know about that, but we've.
I wish we could.
We got it off our chest.
Well,
Dad,
yeah. I wish the governments could. I mean, they should be, but they're not. No, it's all over the world. I mean, a lot of the governments, all they care about is the money, what they make themselves in the, It's crazy.
It is that, and look, the obvious solution to that, Dad, is for the people to get out into the street and demand change, right? That's. I mean, how else do you get the change, Dad? The politicians are not going to do it.
But you've got to have normal people, not ones from Eton and places like that. Normal people running the country as MPs who care about the people. Not they want two jobs and they're, it's one job. You've got to look after the electorate, I mean, you've got to have normal people, normal background people who care about the country as MPs. Not these ones from Eton and places like Boris Johnson, who think they're better than anyone else, which they're not. They're failures,
Yeah, totally, Dad. Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I mean, but it gets back to how do you get that, Dad? Because we have had people like Jeremy Corbyn and the media just destroy him, Dad, isn't it? So it's down to people, really, isn't it? People have got to get, they've got to get smart with it, Dad, and understand that if you're reading The Sun and you're working class, like, what are you doing? What are you doing reading The Sun? They don't care about you. All you're doing is reading Rupert Murdoch's views about the world. God, don't read The Sun. What else can you say?
Well, the media, they run the country in a way, don't they?
Yeah, definitely. So it's down to people, that people power. People, the power rests with the people, but it's whether they can be bothered, can be bothered to actually do anything about it, or would they rather their children just inherit all these problems that they can't do anything about because they were too fucking lazy and apathetic to do anything about it.
Yeah, it'd be lovely. It'd be lovely to get a government that cares about the people. It cares about the poor people, not the rich. Oh,
yeah.
Will I ever see that? Will I ever see that? I doubt it. But
not unless people.
Let's hope it happens one day.
Not unless people start to take an interest in it, Dad. Unless these things are not going to change without people power. They never have, Dad. Right? All the changes we've had, women getting the right to vote, people of colour being able to vote, 5-day work week, 8-hour work day. None of this was handed to people without a fight, Dad. People have to fight for it. You can't just expect people to wake up one morning and be like, I'm going to do the right thing. That's not how the world works. There's many of us and few of them, Dad. But they have the power right now, and we have to take that back, right?
Yeah, but it's like these people, the women in Afghan now, the leaders now, they won't let them go into salons now. They won't let the women go into salons. because they don't want women talking to each other, and you know, what a crazy world we're living in, isn't it? Right?
Well, yeah, I mean, refugees are not going to be able to go into salons either. They'll be on those fucking prison barges, won't they? Or in Rwanda.
Oh,
Not so different, Dad. Not so different.
well,
Human
no,
rights are human rights, my
the
dad.
Taliban don't want women talking like an. They don't want crowds of women together talking because if they're frightened, they'll all probably rebel against the Taliban. Oh, I don't know. It's crazy world in the moment, isn't it? Yeah?
Oh, it is, Dad. Yeah, it is. It is. And until next week, we're never going to run out of news, Dad. Anyway, that's at least we've got the content made for us every week, and we don't have to
no.
think too hard.
As long as Boris Johnson's alive, we'll never run out of news.
Oh God, I'd like to talk about something not Boris Johnson, to be honest, though, Dad. He's boring, isn't he? God, it's like people when Trump was in every day it was just Trump. It was just tiring, So yeah, well, let's hope there's some good news to talk about next week, Dad. Huh?
Well, when we get good news, it's very rare, isn't it? Right?
Yeah. Well, maybe we should search for a good story to end on, but I don't know. I don't like that, to be honest. I'd rather start with a good story than get into the reality, innit? All right, Dad. Well, have a good night, Dad. Take it easy.
Boy. Speak to you next week. Ta-ra.
All right. Ta-ra.